Did it video?
No.
Are we recording?
Oh yeah, we are. Never mind. We are.
Well, Internet, you got to enjoy that moment of Michelle telling me we're not videotaping. But we are. All right, so anyway. Internet, welcome to Broken Remade. All right, everyone here, welcome to Broken Remade. I am noticing there is a completely empty row in front of me this week. Last week there was not, so I think you have learned my spit zone. That's a good thing. So I keep my camera back far enough because I know the spit zone too. It happens, I get a little excited sometimes. Today, the message I came up with has a couple sections of Psalms in it. So we're going to go to the book of Psalms, and we're going to start in Psalm 38. Psalm 38. In dealing with this class, this Broken and Remade class that we're doing, a lot of times I discuss anxiety, I discuss depression, I discuss joy, I discuss peace, I discuss a lot of different emotions that really all of us experience. And every one of us experiences pretty much the full gamut of emotions in our lives. As humans, we do have fears. We do have anxieties, we have depression moments, we have, I call them hills and valley moments, you know, we have the mountains where we're up on top of the world and everything's going right. Then we have the disastrous valley moments where things are going wrong and some stuff's not going well. And one of the people in the Bible that really God used to show many of those peaks and valleys was David. I saw a couple people even mouthing it. It's David. And when I went through my time of heavy depression, all right, there was a time in about 2005 when my divorce happened. I had preached in jails, rescue missions, on bus ministries. I was doing revival meetings. I was traveling with an evangelist. And I had a moment where my family broke up. And everything fell apart. Just everything fell apart. My ministry was gone. I didn't know what to do. I was like, well, wait, we don't believe in divorce. And I was stuck in this situation. And it drove me into a really dark place. And when I went back to church, one of the first things that was said to me was like, well, you know, you were such a great preacher. You know, it's too bad that your life's taken this turn. You had a really good run, basically. And I was given that feeling of like, well, now your life's broken, so you had a good use, but now you're not as usable. And they offered me to go to some recovery classes and different things to try to help me out through this. And I was confused because just a few months before that, I was preaching and seeing people saved and watching these amazing things happening. And it was a very confusing time for me. And so I thought at that time, I'm like, well, obviously I don't belong to the church anymore. Like, I mean, I don't feel wanted. I don't feel usable. So I ventured back into the world. And for a time, I went back into drinking again. I went back into sleeping around again. After salvation, mind you, right? I was living a life that was, I know, not pleasing to the Lord. And I knew not pleasing to the Lord while I was living it. All right? And it drove me into a very, very dark place. I even went on a 2-week suicide watch. I got on some pills the doctor gave me. He diagnosed me with bipolar disorder during this time, but I was losing my whole life. I was losing my wife. I was losing my ministry. And so I was misdiagnosed and put on some medicines that messed with my chemicals in my brain. And it drove me into this dark, dark place. Well, through that time, the whole time, I was still talking to my God, because He was my God, you understand. I still was going through this torment in my life because I would be sitting there praying to God, going, I know this isn't how I'm supposed to live. This isn't how I'm supposed to be. This isn't how I'm supposed to feel. What is going on? And so I'm conversing with God, knowing I'm living a terribly unchristian life. The fruits were not there to be seen. It was a dark time. But after that, when I did turn, when I repented of all that, and I came back to God, and I said, God, I want to come back. I want this to be fixed. I want to get back in relation with you. And when I did that, one of the things I did was I worked through the summer, and I played, like I put an like a headphone in, one of the earbuds, and I attached it to my phone, and I played Psalms on repeat. I would work my work day and just listen through the Psalms, listen through the Psalms, listen through the Psalms. Do you know why? Because David is such a great example of all the Christians' rises and falls through life, questioning God, wondering what's going on, weeping tears on his bed, having great moments where he's celebrating and excited for his God. And you need to get into the Psalms and really see the humanity of David and see how like us he is. It's amazing. By the way, speaking of just like us, when you really get into the Bible and look at the Bible people and know the people of the Bible, you will realize quickly they are just like us, sometimes worse. David, the adulterer with Bathsheba. Husband comes home. Go sleep with your wife, because he knew she was pregnant with his baby, trying to cover his sin, right? I mean, this is terrible stuff. Noah comes off the ark, gets drunk. I talk about this stuff all the time. We forget who we're dealing with. These aren't these white-robed men with white long beards and flowing hair with shining light coming from their heads, like sometimes we characterize, especially in American mindsets, or even like artistically. Like if you look through the history of art and religion, you see these wonderful, great men of God glowing with this glorious glow. But listen, bunch of sinners and misfits and crazy people being used by God. Prostitutes in the line of Jesus. I mean, you can go on and on. David was one of those men, but he was a man after God's own heart. This is an amazing thing, right? I want to look at two different Psalms, and I want to see the two different perspectives I'm talking about from David. And I want to see where the focus is, and I want to see how it relates to us. Because these two Psalms, Psalm 38, and then after Psalm 38, we're going to go back to Psalm 32. And we're going to read and really dig into what's being said here. Because I'm telling you, Psalm 38, it is such a beautiful picture. Beautiful, I mean ugly. Such a great picture of depression, anxiety, frustration, the confusion of life, which all of us feel at some point. All of us. Here's what it says in verse 1. O Lord, do not rebuke me in your wrath, nor chasten me in your hot displeasure. You ever feel like you're in that place with God? He can't be happy with me. I knew during that time where I was sinning, God cannot be happy with me. I feel like I'm burning in his wrath and in his hot displeasure. I know many of us have felt like we have been there. And many of us have been there, honestly. And it says here, for your arrows pierce me deeply, and your hand presses me down. Boy, is that the description of my depression. I felt like I was being pushed down in the ground by God. I felt like I was being pierced with convicting arrows in my heart. I was having this struggle with who I was. I had a struggle with accepting myself because I felt like my God was nothing but against me. A lot of people feel that out there that are not in the church. They feel like God is a God of wrath and judgment, and they're down in their depression, and they're being pressed down, and arrows are piercing them. It says, there's no soundness in my flesh because of your anger, nor is there any health in my bones because of my sin. Boy, you understand what sin did to this world, right? Do you understand how broken this place is because of sin? Look around us. Turn the news on. Look everywhere. Sin, sin, sin has broken everything. And our bodies are breaking down because of sin entering this world. Sin is a horrible thing that destroyed some beautiful things that God has created. Sin. And I don't have this. And it says, I don't have health in my bones. Do you see our bodies breaking down? Do you see us getting weaker? We talked a little bit about that before. I've mentioned this in different messages. It says in verse 4, for my iniquities have gone over my head. I am buried in sin. Like, when you trace your life and really think about, and I don't want you to dwell on it. We're not going to stay here long, by the way. This is the gross part of the message. we're going to get to joy, we're going to get to peace. But if you look back and trace your steps of sin, and look at what you've done that you know has not met the standard of God, it has not been what He has expected of you. I'm buried in it. It is over my head. I